Westbrook. You love the Philadelphia Eagles. Let me get a hell yeah!
All right, guys, welcome to another edition of Party on Broad. This is the post-game show of the GOAT Squad Draft. Today we're going to grade every single team that has gone so far, and we're going to grade the starting five. We're going to talk about everyone here. So let's share this screen here, and I don't know. Some people here might take offense to this, but I think it's going to be fun. It's all for fun, right? No.
I hope some people take offense.
I was going to say, it's not fun unless you're insulting people.
Right.
Yes.
All right, let's start off with Tiago. He got LeBron with the number one pick. What were your thoughts on LeBron over Michael Jordan with the number one pick?
I would have done the same thing.
Well,
Yep, I would have done the same thing.
Yeah, when you talk about it being the modern game, and LeBron can do, we always say that Michael might have been the best overall player, but the guy that can do it all is LeBron. So, I mean, I can't really fault, like JR was in heaven, but I can't necessarily fault him for doing that.
Yeah,
I can.
Isolation basketball is dead, man. So he's got LeBron, he's got Steve Nash, Klay Thompson, Rasheed Wallace, Vince, and Peja. Rob, any quick takes on that roster?
Yeah, I mean, look, I love Klay Thompson. I think it was a little early for Klay Thompson. I think you could have got him later. Rasheed, I mean, you're rocking Rasheed and Vince out there, so you got a Carolina connection, but you know, it's a nice team. It's a nice team, but any team that has LeBron has a chance. I think you've seen that throughout LeBron's career. So, you know, I'm not too worried about Tiago over there. I'm not gonna lie.
What about you, JB?
I love the Peja and Klay combo to space the floor. Nash and LeBron, I'm a little less excited about. I think they're a little bit redundant. Rasheed is interesting. Vince Carter, not a huge defender. So, you know, I think your defense on this team is subpar overall. Clay's probably the best defender on this entire team. But, you know, they're going to space the floor, and LeBron can play downhill. So, and Vince can too.
LeBron's the best defender.
Yeah, that's the first thought is what is that front court? What about you, Bryant?
I'm just over here speechless still that we think that MJ can only play ISO basketball. I mean,
I didn't say that.
No, he's just LeBron's easier to fit other people around, I think. So for me, he's the number one. He can do more things. Your second round pick doesn't have to slot in because he can kind of slot 1 through 4 for you.
listen,
So I just think it opened up other options.
I feel you, but I don't know. I don't think that Twitter is going to take nicely to MJ not being number one overall. That's just my personal.
And it's our job to make sure Twitter knows that MJ didn't go number one.
Oh, absolutely it is.
What about you, Joey?
Yeah, I mean, whenever you have LeBron on your team, that's always going to up your odds. I mean, he took a team with Larry Hughes as his second best player to the finals. So whenever you have LeBron, that's already going to up your odds. I'm probably higher on Nash than the rest of the guys in this pod right now. I've always loved Steve Nash's game. I mean, and obviously Klay, he has moments when he is probably a better shooter than Steph. I'm going to go out there and say it. And Rasheed, that was questionable. Rasheed as your 5 is not gonna cut it. I guess I like the Vince Carter pick. I'm probably not as high on him as most people, but I loved that Peja pick because I'm a huge Peja guy.
Love the Peja pick.
I almost picked him instead of Petrovic.
All right, so quick grade. All right, so it looks like he just wants LeBron to drive and kick, and he's just surrounding the perimeter with amazing shooters. I'm going with out of 10. I'm going to give Tiago a solid 7.5. What about you, Rob?
I'm going to go a little bit lower. It's above a 5. I'm going to say about a 6. I'll go with a 6.
Go ahead, Jason.
5. I think, you get the number one pick in the draft. But I think there's a couple of really questionable guys here.
Bryant?
Same. I'm going 5, and it's only it's a 5 only because LeBron makes it not a 2.
Joey?
I'm going to go 6 just because it's LeBron.
All right. My man Tiago is getting ripped apart,
Tough scene, tough
Love it.
crew. Hey, can you zoom in the spreadsheet, Chris?
I don't know. That's a great question.
View?
Nope.
Yeah, you can. Just the spreadsheet itself. See that 100%? Just go to 150 and we'll get the whole thing.
That's a good idea. All right, hold
Maybe 125. We'll get the whole thing.
Look, where's the percent at?
At the top. At the top bar.
Oh, there it is. All right.
Yep.
Is that better?
Yep.
All right, cool. All right, let's talk about JR's squad. He's got MJ at number 2 in the first round. Karl Malone, Jerry West, D. Wade, Patrick Ewing, and Russell Westbrook. Holy black hole of offense on this squad. I look at that front court of Patrick Ewing and Karl Malone. I'm not a fan. What's your quick thoughts on this squad, Rob?
There's not enough basketball sport. Michael Jordan and Karl Malone are going to kick each other's ass. They're going to fight on a daily basis. Russell Westbrook will act like he's tough and stand in the back and curse at guys and then, run away because that's what he does. I'm not a fan of this team. I just don't think that there's any rhythm to this group. Obviously, look, Michael Jordan is Michael Jordan. I understand that. And when you have him, you have a chance. But Karl Malone and Patrick Ewing, I know Jerry West is the logo. But to me, any team that has Russell Westbrook is downgraded immediately because of what a jackass he is as a human being. I know he's a good player. Listen, I fought for him to get the MVP a couple years back, but I just can't stand the guys here. They're automatically downgraded.
I have this vision in my head of this starting 5 in a gym, and then Russell Westbrook opening the gym basketball doors and walking in and being like, "What the fuck? What are your thoughts?" There's no basketballs. There's not enough basketballs.
No.
Totally. Who's next?
Go ahead, Brian.
Oh, me?
Any quick thoughts on this team?
I mean, I'm probably a little higher on him than Rob. I'm also probably a little higher on Russ than Rob. But I completely agree that there's not enough shooting, and I mean there's a lot of good names on that squad. I think he went based off of your typical rankings of all-time NBA players.
Yeah.
And I think he got a lot of high-ranked guys, all-time NBA players. So that's why I like it in that sense. But yeah, the fit, the shooting, the modern NBA, all that kind of stuff, it knocks it down multiple notches.
What about you, Joey?
Yeah, that spacing is absolutely just horrid. I mean, there's going to be 4 or 5 guys in the paint at one time at any given point. Like Brian said, it's a lot of decent names. Obviously, MJ obviously ticks it up a little bit, but who's the best 3-point shooter on that team? I mean, who is it?
Jordan, and he's not very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he shot his best when the 3-point line was shortened. So, yeah.
Quick grades. I'm going to give him a 6 because he's the Party on Broad co-host. What about you, Rob?
Because he's a Party on Broad co-host and he has Russell Westbrook, I'm giving him a 4.
Jason.
It doesn't fit for me. None of this fits. None of it makes sense. So the only thing I like is MJ and Ewing, defensively. You can't go wrong there. But to me, this is another 5. Doesn't fit for me.
Brian?
Again, I'm going to go just slightly higher. I'm going 6. MJ is the GOAT still, in my opinion. And we're talking about a bunch of names on a Twitter poll here, and he's got a bunch of names on there. So I'm taking it higher than what most people would probably say. But I'm still not going crazy. Just 6.
Spoken like the winner of the last poll. Well said. All right. And Joey, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to go 6 just because MJ's on there.
Well, MJ will find a way. MJ will find a way to get these assholes in a gym together and figure a way.
He will find a way to make it personal, and then he'll just take him to the promised land.
And for me, then became personal.
All right, let's talk about Dan's squad. We have Kareem, Dr. J, Giannis, Pistol Pete, Peyton, and Bill Walton. My first take on this is obviously the thought of Dr. J and Giannis as wings on this team is absolutely ridiculous. What's your quick take on this, Rob?
Yeah, I think Dr. J and Giannis is wings. You're talking about Kareem on the inside. Listen, when I think of the problem with a Pete Maravich is when I think of a Pete Maravich, as I said during the draft, I think of the old videos I used to watch of him in a dark gym with just a spotlight on him as he's bouncing the ball between his legs and he's doing all this other stuff. And I think of Pete Maravich from college, not Pete Maravich necessarily from the NBA. I think that you're giving up 2 points every time down on the defensive end of the floor with Pete Maravich because he just doesn't defend. And then we kind of joked about his sixth man being Bill Walton. I know Bill had a good year, and I guess for 1 year, if he's on your team, that's fine. But I really like his first 3 picks are going to be tough to beat. And then you add a defender like Gary Payton and a guy who could get in the head of your best player. I think he's got a pretty solid squad.
I think this lineup depends on how good of a shooter Pistol Pete is because the 3-point line was established like right at the end of his career. And he didn't really play that much then, but he did shoot well. So I think that's really kind of to sum up the spacing on this team is how good of a shooter Pistol Pete was. What's your quick take, Jason?
I like it. Don't love it. Agree with what everyone said. I think that Kareem is a good pick. Giannis is a great pick at that spot. I like it. It kind of makes sense. I don't love it.
Go ahead, Brian. What about you, Joey?
Riveting.
A lot of wingspan between Kareem, Dr. J, and Giannis. But yeah, the spacing could be a little sketch. But the Bill Walton pick was such a wild card. That threw me off. That threw me for a loop at the end of that there.
Let me say one last thing. Pistol Pete, if you put Jason Williams from the Kings in the era with Pistol Pete, he is a much better player. He dominates, and he's more entertaining. So Pistol Pete, I think, it was fun for his era. It was like throwing a Harlem Globetrotter in the league. But, I would have picked Jason Williams over Pistol Pete.
Did you ever see the movie about Pistol Pete's life?
So good.
It's a good movie, but the acting is like horrific. It's absolutely.
All right, quick grades. I think I'm giving this just for the fact that we have a Dr. J and Giannis potential running a fast break together. That would be just ridiculous. I'm going to give it a 6.5. What about you, Rob?
Yeah, I think it's pretty decent. I'll go with a 7 here just because of those 3. And I know Pistol Pete's not a great defender and everything, but Gary Payton is. So maybe he can make up a little bit of that. I'll give him a 7.
JB?
Yeah, I think 7's fair.
Brian?
5. He's got Bill Walton on his team.
Smoking that funky stuff. All right, what about you, Joey?
I'll go 7. It's a decent squad.
All right, let's go on to Mr. Joey. Joey's squad. He's got Magic. Awesome pick in that first round. KG, Ray Allen, Clyde the Glide, Jason Kidd, and Carmelo. Joey, talk to us a little bit about your squad.
So my ideal, like the ideal scenario that was in my head when I went into this was Magic, KD, Ray Allen, I'm trying to remember, David Robinson, because I knew that no one was going to be around, like no center was going to be around by the time I got to picking a big. And who was my other one?
You're like a Paul Pierce away from the Boston Celtics here.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, but so Magic was my no doubt first pick just because he's the greatest point guard of all time and probably the most dynamic guy to build around. And then, like I said on the pod, I needed an asshole to sort of push these guys. and KG was the no-brainer pick. Plus, he's one of the most versatile big men to ever play the game. And that's when I started to think, why don't I put KG at small ball 5? Because he has played small ball 5 before. So why not just space it out for the rest of them? So that's why I went with Ray Allen, which is probably a bit of a surprise, but why not put the greatest shooter of all time based on makes in that lineup? And then I knew I needed another bucket getter to pair with them, so I went with Clyde. And then I went, why not put one more guard in there, another shooter, and another secondary ball handler? So that's why I went with Jason Kidd. And then I just went stereotypical bucket getter for 6-man, and I picked Melo.
I think Carmelo fits really well in this team. In a weird way, I think that last pick is probably one of my favorites because you have a lot of guys that are versatile and can share the basketball. What's your quick takes on this, Rob?
Yeah, I think it's a good team. It's a good mix. You have Kidd as your secondary point guard. You have Magic. I love KG. You said it. He's versatile. And if you're going with a small ball lineup, it works. Ray Allen's shot, Jesus Shuttlesworth, whatever you want to call him. I mean, his shot is just so smooth. And Jason Kidd was a guy I was looking for as my point guard as well. With Carmelo coming off the bench, not just because you're in the room with us right now, I do think you put together a pretty good squad here.
Go ahead, JB.
I kind of expected to come away with KG in the first round at number 8. I don't consider him a Celtic, so I guess that was, it's probably good that I didn't have to pick him. I love that pick because he can play 3 through 5 for you. So in later rounds, it gives you all kinds of options. Magic, let's not forget that Magic defended and played starting center in the NBA Finals as like a 20-year-old. So there's a 6'9" guy that can do everything. Jason Kidd can do everything. Love this. Ray Allen, perfect. I personally don't love Carmelo, but in a 6-man role with these guys, I think this is a really solid team.
Go ahead, Bryant.
Yeah, I echo everything that said. I was also going to make the comment that it's not just because he's sitting here, but I truly do believe that it was a very good team, and without a doubt in my mind, the best team that we've talked about so far until we get to the next one. So, yeah, good work.
Yep.
Yeah, I really like.
Yeah, this is a squad.
It makes
sense.
It does. I like the concept of Magic and KG running a pick and roll and then filling in with Jason Kidd or it makes sense to me. I would grade this a solid 8. What about you, Rob?
Yeah, I'm going to go with an 8.5. I don't like to give 10s, but 8.5 is going to be one of my higher scores I'm going to hand out. This team is going to cause some major damage.
JB?
I mean, if you look at the draft position, 4 is a tough spot to be in. 4 and 5 are kind of tough. Man, this is a 9.5. Like, nice. I just love the way this team fits.
Yeah, KG was a beast with the Minnesota Timberwolves. No one remembers how good of we talk about moving the basketball constantly in today's modern NBA. Like, I think KG only would have gotten better in today's NBA. What about you?
100%.
Yep, I agree. I think the one thing that people may knock him down for a little bit is the lack of a big man. I mean, I know KG can play center, and especially in the modern era, positionless basketball, small ball, all that kind of stuff. But I mean, KG is going to struggle guarding Shaq, these types of things. So,
yeah.
So I mean, that's the only thing keeping him from a 10 though for me. So I'm going 9.
What about you, Joey?
Show me my money. I'm going to go 10.
Cash and checks.
Sounds like a 1 seed to me.
Yeah.
Show me the money.
Love it. All right. Next up, we got Brian. And this is probably my favorite 1-2 combinations in this, other than you, Rob, in this first 2 rounds here. The Kobe Bill Russell duo is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Then we got Dirk, Chris Paul, Tracy McGrady, you stole that from me. I was totally taking that guy. And then Grant Hill. My first take is you actually.
I don't get to defend myself.
Yeah. Go ahead. Tell us a little bit about your squad.
No, I don't don't have much to say. Like I said, on the actual thing, for me, there was like a kind of a 5-man tier at the top, and Kobe was that final. It was the 4 that went before him, and then Kobe. And so I was happy there. And even though I probably rank those 4 higher than Kobe, I think in light of current events and Twitter and all of that, Kobe might be even the highest vote getter out there. So I got that working for me. And then as I was kind of going through, I wasn't sure if I had enough shooting on here, but as I really look back through it, I mean, T-Mac was, he's an underrated
34%.
shooter. All right. Not horrible. He's an underrated shooter.
Yep.
Chris Paul, very good shooter. Also probably underrated in that area. Dirk obviously is a fantastic shooter. So I think I got the shooting in there, and I think I got the mix of everything else too. So.
Yeah, dude, this is a really strong squad. I think it's going to do really well on Twitter. This is really well-rounded squad. Bill Russell, one of the most versatile players of all time, a winner. Kobe is a winner. Dirk, that guy is just through and through one of the best European players ever. Chris Paul is a great defensive player. I don't like the Grant Hill pick. I'll be honest. I think if you replace Grant Hill with something else, I think there could be a fight with the ball between McGrady and Kobe potentially. But it's a really good squad. What about you, Rob?
No, I really like this squad. And, we've talked about Kobe and Bill Russell, but I love the Dirk pick. As a matter of fact, I was thinking about adding him to just add to the scoring of my squad because, Dirk could get outside and shoot, but he's also got a little size. And I wanted to add Tracy McGrady as my 6th man. I was kind of hoping that there was a chance that he would fall a little bit because I think he's forgotten about a lot. Like, I think people forget about how good Tracy McGrady was. And that's why it hurts when you hear these things come out that the Sixers were like,
they're huge.
The squad.
Don't remind us of that, man.
So let me jump in here real quick, actually, Robin, and touch on that. I also wanted T-Mac as my 6th man, but once I realized that Reggie wasn't there to take that pick, I was like, all right, I'm not going to risk him not being there in the 6th round. I'm going to take him right now. So if I could organize my team, I'd probably have Grant Hill as my starting small forward and T-Mac as my 6th man off the bench. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, no, but I like them all. The only issue I could see on Twitter is that Chris Paul seems to be a guy that you either like him or you hate him. I don't think there's a lot of in between on Chris Paul. A lot of people really turned on him towards the end of his college career. If you remember, he had a couple incidents. He stepped on a guy's groin, and it was after that a lot of people really started to hate Chris Paul. But you're not going to have an issue with me, except for when we vote for myself. But I think it's a pretty good squad. And I happen to like the Grant Hill pick because if you're looking at a guy, if he's not injured, Grant Hill was an unbelievable basketball player.
That's true. What about you, Jason?
Well, I don't love Bill Russell. I think he's
just don't like him because he's a Celtic. Stop it.
No, I don't see it. He was 6'9". He was, that team got a lot of rings, but that team got a lot of rings, and I don't know that any numbers that I've seen support the legend that is Bill Russell. So I love the Grant Hill 6 man. I think people forget pre-injury how versatile and how multifaceted he was. When I said I was going to take a gamble and pick Ben Simmons, it was between Ben and Tracy McGrady. I was gambling that people would forget about him and that he would fall to me. Really wanted him on the squad, so love that. Chris Paul, great point guard for this team. Dirk, awesome. So, there's a lot of great stuff here. The late stuff, round 3 on, I think nailed. I would love to have those 3, 4, 5, 6 guys.
The problem of going last is you have to wait, and Bryant knows that I wanted Dirk. I was talking about Dirk for like
I
all week.
said Dirk first before you ever even said anything about it.
All right.
My original text to you was, I'm taking Dirk in the second, but that was when we had 12 guys. And so once we had 10 teams, I was very happy to get him in the third.
Quick take, Joey. Any quick takes?
Yeah, I love this team. Obviously, RIP Black Mamba. We got the point guard. We got the greatest stretch four in the history of the NBA, and Dirk. I was going to try to take T-Mac as my sixth man if he fell, so I love that. Grant Hill as sixth man is interesting, and I can't comment on Bill Russell because I think I was probably negative 30 years old when he was in his prime.
I think we all were.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of like grades, I'm
When he
like
was scoring 13 points against plumbers.
in terms of grades, I think this is pretty high. I think this is probably like an 8.5 for me. I think this is definitely a modern NBA squad with shooting, with gamers, with versatility, with passing. You know, and a real offensive threat in Tracy McGrady. What about you, Rob?
Yeah, I agree. I think an 8.5 is right where this belongs. You got a little bit of everything, and look, Kobe was a killer. He was an absolute killer. And as we said back with LeBron and Michael, when Kobe was on the court, you had a chance to win. The only difference between this team and the teams that had those two guys, he actually filled out his roster very, very, very well.
What about you, Jason?
I think I'm with you guys on the score. I think it's the perfect team defensively to put Dirk and McGrady on because everyone else is a dog on defense.
Brian.
Well, I mean, I would agree with Jason in the point where I'm also actually not a huge Bill Russell guy. A, I've never watched him play, obviously. B, I hate the Celtics. And C, I mean, rings are what they are, but like it is a team game, right? But I'm also not going to act like I can evaluate him correctly. And so, you look at any all-time rankings ever, and Bill Russell's almost always top 5, certainly top 10. And I got him in the second round. I'm going giving myself a 10.
Right. How about
That's how Cowboys are ranked high also, just because there's so many fans.
No, it's not fan stuff. I'm talking like, go look at the ESPN top 75. Bill Russell's number
That's
4.
fan nonsense. None of that makes any sense. Emmitt Smith is ranked top running back of all time, too.
Go ahead, Joey.
Solid 8.5. I like the dynamic on this team.
All right, let's talk about Mike, the Killing Me Smalls host. Mike has Shaq number 1. For me, that was a little bit of a reach. Just going to be honest. Then we got
Love it.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Love that pick.
Then we have Pippen, AI, John Stockton, James Worthy, and Andrew Toney. This is what I wanted from Mike. I wanted Mike to have kind of his flair of guys that he grew up with, and that first thought is that the top 3 picks there between Shaq, Pippen, and AI, with AI just running around Shaq and Pippen, is absolutely ridiculous. What's your quick take, Rob?
Yeah, I mean, you know that AI and Shaq really loved each other when they both played. I mean, Shaq used to talk about AI as being one of the best players ever play the game. I can remember him saying that in multiple interviews when they were growing up. And look, I love AI. I got an entire wall dedicated to the guy. I'm just concerned at the black holeness of AI for something like this. And is he going to give the ball to Shaq enough inside to make him count? Does John Stockton become a non-factor in the sense of an AI being out there? I don't know these things. I don't try and tell you that I know anything about James Worthy. I know he was good, but I never saw the guy play. So I'm not out here going to tell you. Same thing with Andrew Toney. I've heard great things about all of them. It's an interesting dynamic. Let's put it this way. I think it's better in those first couple teams we talked about, but I don't think it's at the level of, say, a Joey and a Bryant's team.
Go ahead, Jay.
John Stockton to Shaquille O'Neal pick and roll. Like, my only problem with this team is that AI and Andrew Toney don't add much value to it, in my view. But Worthy absolute beast. Just, 6'10" guy that can shoot from anywhere, can score on anybody. Big body, makes perfect sense with Stockton as a pick and pop guy. But Shaq and Stockton in a pick and roll, whew. And then Pippen, he's going to make every team better that he's on. So AI, Tony, I don't exactly know what they do with this squad, but to me, I would move AI to the bench as your six man, and just play defense and run pick and roll with Stockton and Shaq.
What about you, Brian?
I agree.
It's almost like Bryant and I see the game in a similar way.
That's weird, huh? I actually also like the Shaq pick. I think, just taking a look across that top line of first rounders, I think, again, the first five were the first five for me. That's just going to, in some order. Wilt and Duncan were probably, they probably deserve the next two spots. But I personally would have chosen the next two guys who went, as far as Shaq and Steph. And so, I think it's the right call personally, even though if it's not maybe the correct one, if you're really going by the book. So all in all, I agree with what has been said here.
Joey.
Yeah, this is exactly the kind of old head squad that I expected from Mike. So, yeah, obviously the Shaq and Stockton pick and roll is probably going to be the heart of that offense, and I love that. You have AI as your pressure cooker. Pippen is just your stop everybody, number one defender. The James Worthy pick is interesting. I mean, I was -10 when he was playing. So, but from what I've seen, he was a stud, and obviously Tony is a Philly legend. That spacing is questionable though, but I think Stockton kind of makes up for that.
Yeah, in terms of grade, I think everything begins and ends with how good would Shaq be in a modern NBA, and I think there's elements in Shaq's game that definitely weren't unlocked. I mean, he was so athletic when he was first in the NBA. And then my second concern here is obviously pick and roll defense. AI and Stockton will get eaten alive in today's NBA. But then you got Pippen, and then you got Pippen filling in everything else regarding that. So I think for this squad, I'm gonna give it a 7.5. What about you, Rob?
Well, I'm going to go with a 7. It's crazy to me because of how much I loved him here, but AI is kind of a guy that's making me take this team down a little bit. So I'll go 7.
Jay?
Yeah, I probably have to go. I think 7 is fair if you move AI to the 6-man role. Then they can do some things. If you're going to put him on the starting lineup, it's probably a 5 or 6.
Offensively, this team is interesting, but I'm worried about the other end. What about you, Bryant?
Copy paste Jason.
What's that?
Copy paste Jason.
Okay, what about you, Joe?
Yeah, I'll go 7. All
right, let's move on to Rob. He's got Steph Curry, my second favorite, first and second round. We got Steph, Kawhi, David Robinson, Charles Barkley, Walt Frazier, and Dennis Rodman. My first take is that Steph Curry, Kawhi that's got to be the best in the modern NBA. That would be absolutely beastly. David Robinson, the Admiral, what a defensive player. It sucks that his career kind of ended shortly. Charles, I was very questionable on in terms of the modern NBA, and I would like to hear everyone's thoughts on that. And then you got Walt Frazier and Dennis Rodman. Rob, talk to us a little bit about your squad.
So coming into this, Steph Curry was going to be my first-round pick all the way. I mean, it was my hope was just that there wasn't someone who was looking at it. The way I saw it, modern NBA, I need a shooter. I need somebody, and there's nobody better than Steph Curry doing that. When it came to the second round, I wasn't really sure. Scottie Pippen was on my list, but I looked at Kawhi Leonard, and the guy is just he's like a robot, man. Emotionless. He just goes out there. He just plays. He's almost a throwback in that mentality, that killer mentality where he just does his own thing. When it came to David Robinson, I knew I needed a center. I had a defender, Kawhi, but I needed someone to protect the basket. And I look at David Robinson as not only that, but he was a guy that could score if asked to. So if they're trying to take the other two out, I feel comfortable going inside to Robinson. When it came to Barkley, I do agree with you. I went back and forth on it because of the modern day game, because he is smaller than most guys at that position. He's not as athletic. What I was looking for there was a toughness factor, a rebounding factor, the fact that he always did play bigger than his size, you know, and I kind of was going to bank on that. But I knew when I picked him that whoever I picked at the bench spot had to be somebody that I could rotate in, almost in that role. When it came to point guard, as I've said, I wanted Jason Kidd. I wanted a more recent guy just from a Twitter standpoint. I think Walt Frazier, as good as he was, as much of a floor general as he was, not many people on Twitter are going to really understand Walt Frazier. Like, they're going to have to go and look it up. You know what I mean? If you look it up, it's a damn good pick. He fits very well from that point guard position. And then, like I said, I wanted a little bit more grit coming off the bench. I didn't need the scoring because of Steph and Kawhi. Those guys are going to light scoreboards up.
Yep.
David Robinson can score. Even Walt Frazier can put a couple buckets in. So I needed another tough guy. So I figured, you know what? Robin's a guy I could roll to. You know he's going to play tough. He's not going to be afraid of anybody. And other than Barkley and Rodman, I have a team of leaders. I have a team of leaders on and off the, you know, Curry, Kawhi, Robinson, Walt Frazier. They're floor generals. They lead. So I do like it overall, but I agree the Barkley dynamic is a question mark.
What about you, JB?
Love Barkley. I think he is, man, I do think he's underrated through history. Him and Rodman on the same team just sounds amazing to me. Just amazing, like how your all of your rebounds are handled with this team. Curry and Kawhi, amazing. Frazier, to me, you know, career 6 assist guy. I'd probably just slide him to the bench as your 6 man and grab every single rebound. And David Robinson, can't go wrong with the Admiral. He was another guy that I think was overshadowed by Tim Duncan, with the longevity that Tim Duncan had. But Robinson spent 4 years at the Naval Academy before he ever came to this was after college, before he ever came to the NBA. And just athletic, probably a little light to take on Shaq, but these other guys are going to dominate the boards. Barkley and Robin will grab every rebound.
What about you, Brian?
Can I go before Jason next time? Yeah, no, I agree. I actually, my least favorite pick, because let me just say first, Rob, I think it's a great team, and I think there are a lot of great picks. So I'm but just for the sake of time, my least favorite pick is Walt Frazier on this squad. I don't know him. I mean, and no one on Twitter will either. But B, even when I go look him up, I'm just not that impressed. I mean, like you said, you go look him up and it's a good pick, and maybe you're right. Maybe but again, like his stats don't pop out at me. Did he ever win a championship? I don't even know. I don't know. He just doesn't do much for me. I am told that he's good, so I guess I can trust the old heads and believe that he was good. But
that was hey, he's a Hall of Famer. I'm gonna roll.
No, I hear you.
I screwed up, and I wasn't looking close enough that Tony Parker was still there. I probably would have went with a Tony Parker.
All right, go ahead.
Anyway, good squad overall.
Yeah, pretty solid squad. Steph is a really good pick. Kawhi threw me for a loop, but he is probably, people don't really talk about how much he's going to go down in history as one of the better wings that we've ever seen. I love that David Robinson pick. I was eyeing him for a later pick just because he's so mobile. People forget how mobile he was as a center, and I feel like he would be fine in the modern game. I really think Chuck would be fine in the modern game, especially like early prime career Chuck, because as oddly built as he was actually incredibly mobile for his stockiness
and long arms.
And long arms too. So yeah, he would fit fine. I mean, his shooting was always questionable, but I feel like he would sort of figure that out. I can't comment on Walt Frazier. Again, I am a baby, so I can't comment
Neither
on
can
him.
I.
And and as long as David Robinson doesn't mind taking a red eye to Vegas to wake up Rodman for the games, then I think that would be perfect.
We're all good, baby. We got it.
Well done, Joey. Grade-wise, I think I'm around an 8. I think if you can funnel that ball to Steph and Kawhi and convince Charles Barkley to do the dirty work like he crushes, I think this is a really good squad. What about you, Rob?
Yeah, I'm going to give myself an 8 because, like I said, I do believe in Charles Barkley. The reason the Walt Frazier one hurts me just because any older guy is going to hurt you in something like this because not many people are going to know who they are. So I'll give myself an 8.
JB?
Yeah, I think 8 is fair. I think for all the reasons stated.
Brian?
My only comment will be I kind of went negative in my comments in the evaluation, so I'll go positive here. Steph Curry is my favorite player of all time.
Right.
He's just, he's unbelievable. And I agree with Rob as far as like you're talking modern NBA, he's it. 8 sounds right to me.
Joey?
7.5.
All right.
Solid 7.5.
All right, let's lead off with Jason's squad. Tell us a little about your squad, man.
All right, so let's start with the top. And I mentioned it during the selection, but Wilt Chamberlain averaged 33 points per game for his career, 23 rebounds per game for his career. But here's the key, and this is the key to the whole team. He was told he was too selfish and looking for his own shot. So he went out and averaged 8.6 assists per game in 1968. 8.6 assists per game from your center. And now I'm going to go down to Oscar Robertson, who averaged the triple-double for his career. You look at James Harden, who has averaged the triple-double in a season. Ben Simmons can rebound the ball. He can attack in the full court, and he can average you 7-8 assists per game. Blake Griffin, good passer, good shooter, all the moves, an array of moves. And then Drazen Petrovic as your sixth man is a 44% career three-point shooter. You've got Harden, Petrovic, to space the floor. You've got a ton of guys who are going to move the ball wherever the good shot is. Pick your poison, because each one of these guys can score, and each one of these guys are unselfish. We're going to get a ton of rebounds. We're going to block a ton of shots. We're going to run the floor if you can't keep up with us, and we're going to hit transition threes. So for me, this was built as a integrated unit, and I feel good about it.
The Drazen pick at the end was really fun. I don't know where Ben fits on this roster. The Wilt, the Oscar picks, the James Harden, the idea of a James Harden and Wilt Chamberlain pick and roll is absolutely ridiculous. I'm not the biggest Blake fan. I'm going to be honest. What about you, Rob?
Yeah, I would say I'm just not a big Blake fan. I understand what you say he does, but the rest of this team really fits well when you talk about Will. And look, everyone always worries about Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons can find his way into anything. I firmly believe that. I believe it doesn't matter what the team is. This guy can just make things happen with the basketball in his hands. And, look, James Harden's going to love this with a guy like Ben Simmons because Ben's not going to shoot the jumper. So, you're going to have your jump shots there. But Ben's going to attract the crowd. Wilt's going to attract the crowd. Oscar's going to attract the crowd. So, James, you're going to – and we all know James likes to shoot the ball. So, I think overall this goes very well. I wouldn't be surprised if at some point you played Petrovic over Griffin and made Griffin the sixth man. But that's, once again, just my bias against it. But I think it's a really good team.
What about you, Bryant?
So I obviously know Jason. I know how he likes to build teams and all of that kind of stuff. And I think he built a very good team. The question, I think, because are we talking about like which of these teams will literally beat any of the other teams? Okay, maybe Jason's got a pretty good chance. But if we're talking about the greatest players of all time, which isn't, I know it's not necessarily what we said. We said greatest starting five, but still, people are going to look at the names and the players and stuff. Petrovic, Blake Griffin, It's just not. Petrovic played 5 seasons. Like, so I just like.
Oh. I'm going to get the entire international vote.
Yeah, so I think what you're missing there, Brian, is Petrovic definitely has a huge following. I think
He's a legend.
Yeah.
Oh, that's probably
Which is the only reason I picked him over Peja, because he did die young and he is such a legend internationally.
That's fair. I will say though, I love your top 3 picks for sure. And even, I mean, again, Ben goes into kind of what I was saying. He is a great fit, like just he can fit anywhere on this team. And so again, just building the team, Ben Simmons makes sense on any team, and including us, like what Rob said. But just as far as talking greatest players of all time too, kind of factoring in that component, Ben's not there yet. So that's the only thing there.
All right, Joey.
Yeah, those first 2 picks, I love those ultimate throwback picks. I love the Harden pick. I think Harden is probably going to go down as probably top 5 scorers or just straight up offensive talents to ever just play the game. And I would love to see a Harden and Ben high pick and roll. I feel like that would be pretty insane to try to guard. The Blake pick was questionable. I mean, they'll make it work. And obviously, rest in peace to Petrovic. He was going to be phenomenal if he had a full career to play out. But this team is a wild card.
All right, let's talk about grades. I like the picks, except for the Simmons and Griffin. I actually like the Petrovic pick because I think there's going to be, if you play it right, JB, like you could actually get votes for that. We all know how our YouTube channel works. Like I think a significant portion of our YouTube following is overseas. So there is something there to this.
Get them to Twitter.
I think you guys are forgetting how good Blake Griffin was his first 5 or 6 years of his career. Years
Modern
of his
NBA,
career.
though. Modern NBA?
The guy can shoot. He can pass. He can
Not
dunk
today,
on you.
though.
He can run the floor. Early
Run the
Blake
floor.
was nasty.
All right, I give this a 7.8. What about you, Rob?
7.8.
What is that number? What is that number?
What over here? I'm going to go with an 8. I think it's a solid team. There's enough of everything on this team. I'm going to go with my 8. I like that number.
Jason.
I don't want to score myself.
Brian.
I like my team, so yeah. I'm very happy with how it turned out.
Brian, go ahead, man.
7.
Joey.
7.
All right, let's move on. Whoa. All right, we've got Kai's squad. He's got Tim Duncan, Hakeem. Wow, check out that Twin Towers. Isaiah Thomas. Wow, I did not spell that right. Reggie Miller, Paul Pierce, and Manu. All right, first thoughts, Twin Towers, holy crap. Surrounded by Reggie and then Manu on the perimeter is really, really fun. What's your quick take, Rob?
Yeah, I agree. I think you got the Twin Towers inside, which Duncan likes to play that way. You have a point guard, Isaiah Thomas, who, although hated by most of his era of the NBA, was a good player. Reggie Miller can just straight up stroke it. I hate Paul Pierce with a passion, but mainly because he was a Celtic, and as an analyst, I think he is horrid. I mean, absolutely horrid as an analyst. And I love the Manu pick. I think Manu was just so much fun to watch play basketball. And as I said earlier, anybody from that San Antonio team, you can't go wrong there. So, decent team. Paul Pierce is definitely going to be a point deductor for me, though.
Jason.
So I don't want to get into coach speak, but I love the idea of Duncan and Hakeem, but they did play in exactly the same spot offensively, like exactly the same spot. Hakeem, you got Hakeem in the second round though, like that's amazing. Isaiah Thomas working with this squad with the ball in his hands, it's really interesting. Reggie, hot and cold. Manu, really interesting as well. Paul Pierce was a really underrated player, like a really underrated all-around player. I like it. I like it, and I'm trying not to overthink it because any team with Hakeem and Tim Duncan is a is a really, really good team.
Ryan.
Yeah, I really like this team, to be honest. And again, I don't like Paul Pierce, but I'm going to look past my personal bias and recognize that I don't like him because he was good and played for the Celtics, like Rob said. So, yeah, I mean, Tim Duncan and Hakeem, I think it's just a ridiculously good down low combo. You can say Duncan and Hakeem played the same spot, but Duncan and Robinson coexisted just fine. So I think Duncan and Hakeem will coexist just fine too. And yeah, I think it's a really good squad.
Joey.
Yeah, Timmy and Akeem are just too good to not coexist well, even though they do exist in the same area of the paint. So I love that Twin Towers there. Obviously, Isaiah Thomas is probably top 5 point guard of all time. Just a really tough dude. I like Reggie. I think people tend to overrate him a little bit, but I don't mean to say that he's a terrible player. He was the best shooter before the Ray Allens and the Steph Currys came around. And Paul Pierce is literally the epitome of just high IQ and just moving with purpose and not being overly athletic. And obviously Manu is probably one of the greatest 6 men to ever play the game.
That's the nicest way to call somebody slow. Moving with purpose.
Yes, because he was slow and unathletic. He was like me, really. I probably have as much athleticism as Paul Pierce. So
yeah. Underrated thing about Reggie was great player on the road, because if the away crowd ever turned on him, he would light you up, and that's really valuable, actually.
Yeah. All right, so yeah, I go straight to. I think there's like clear roles on this team. Like Isaiah Thomas is the ball handler. You've got really good off-ball guys in Manu and Reggie, and even Paul Pierce has proven that he can. He's smooth as hell, and he's shown that he can kind of share the rock. So the biggest question is, how does that Duncan Hakeem post game work? But these guys are the ultimate. Front court players here. So I'm probably going in. I like this team. I'm probably going like an 8.8. I think this is definitely a team a team of 6 that fits. What about you, Rob?
I'm going to go with the 7.5. It is a very good team. I would say that you're probably getting a half a point deduction from me for Paul Pierce.
What about you, JP?
Yeah, it's a solid 8. It's got everything. I don't like Isaiah Thomas, but this was probably the best team you could have put him on.
What about you, Bryant?
Yeah, I agree, but I like it more, I think, than even some others, and so I'm going 9.
Wow, Joey.
Solid 8. Hakeem and Tim are just too good.
All right, so let's wrap it up. I had the last pick. I got Kevin Durant, Larry Bird, the Brow, Paul George, Derrick Rose, and Tony Parker. So I really wanted to emphasize shooting and surrounding Larry Bird. And Rob and I have talked all week about Kawhi, and I really wanted Kawhi. But the concept of having guys surround Larry Bird as my stretch 4 sounded really, really fun. And so I love my 2 through 5. I think I have one of the best 2 through 5s in this entire group. In Durant, Bird, Anthony Davis, Paul George. These are all guys that can play multiple positions, defend, shoot. They're all two-way players. So I'm really confident with that group. And then with my 5th and 6th picks, I wanted obviously a facilitator, and I went with Derrick Rose and Tony Parker. I went with Derrick Rose because, I wanted someone to push the tempo. I wanted someone that can get to the free throw line and kind of put pressure on a defense in a fast break offense. Because obviously the previous 4 can't do that. And then I got Tony Parker, and I don't know about you guys, but like my entire thought process with this would be Tony Parker actually over Derrick Rose, running a pick and roll with Kevin Durant and Larry Bird, and that would be absolutely unstoppable. So that is my lineup. What's your quick thoughts on this, Rob?
Love Kevin Durant. I mean, look, is he a pain in the ass? Does he talk a little too much? Yeah, but my God, he's just an unbelievable talent. Larry Bird is Larry Bird. Like, I think it's a young man's bias for me with Larry Bird when I look at the modern game and I question. I think Bird would be good, but would he be the guy that we know he is in today's game? You know, and like I said, that could be a total younger guy's bias, not really seeing him play. Anthony Davis, Anthony Davis is a very good player. There's no doubt about it. I get curious when Anthony Davis, when someone tries to get a little bit in his head, get a little physical with him, does he have that mental fortitude to take that on? I love Paul George, and you think of what Paul George came back from after that horrific leg injury. The guy is just he can play. Derrick Rose, I agree with you. I think I'd play Tony Parker over him a little bit more. So, yeah, I think you have a solid team. Like I said, a couple question marks, but they're not like question marks where I say, oh, it totally destroys different things that you have to have. That's all.
JB?
The first 4 picks are outstanding. I mean, Durant falling to 10 is a coup. I almost hoped he fell to 12, but he and Anthony Davis together is very scary. Paul George being on this squad, the nastiest person ever on the court, and Larry Bird. I don't like these point guards. I just think they're a little too ball dominant. But I in your draft position, it was tough to get the floor general type. You know, you put a Jason Kidd type on this team, and you've got like the perfect squad. But your first 4 picks were absolute home runs, just home runs that fit together.
Right.
Seriously, can I go ahead, Jason? Yeah, I mean, the versatility in those first 4 is, I think, the key word there. I mean, it's just absurd. Yeah, I think for me, Paul George felt like a reach. Even though I like Paul George, I think he's a very good player. But it felt like a reach. But again, I love the versatility of the first 4 picks. And he's part of that. And so, yeah, I think it's a really good squad.
Joey?
Yeah, really good squad. KD, I think he has a case for being the most transcendent player of all time. You could literally put him in any era in NBA history, and he would absolutely just dominate. Obviously, you got Larry Legend. AD that was a pretty solid pick for a modern guy. The Paul George pick was a bit of a reach, but I was a huge fan of Pacers Paul George when he was first on the come up. Obviously, Derrick Rose before the injury was probably the most violent athlete that I've ever seen play the game. And obviously, Tony Parker is a good one, but all those guys better keep their girls away from Tony Parker when they're in that locker room.
All right, let's talk about grades. I definitely see, Tony Parker facilitating the offense, and then just Derrick Rose causing chaos coming off the bench. I really, really like my squad. I think probably an 8.5 out of 10. I think I'm very happy. What about you, Rob?
All right, just in honor of you, because you started coming out with scores other than 0.5s or whole numbers. I'm going to give you a 7.8625 for your score here. 7.8625.
I'm going to go 7.8 as well. Again, it's just tough. You were a floor general away from having like an unstoppable squad.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. If you look back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 spots or so, and there's Jason Kidd. If he had gotten just that little bit further instead of Derrick Rose or Tony Parker, flip out either one of them, then yeah, I'm giving you probably a 10. But I'm gonna go. I really like your squad. I'm going 9. So.
Quick note: my guy was Gary Payton with this squad. Go ahead, Joey.
Yeah, that would have been a great one too. Right?
Yeah, that would have been great. Yeah, I love this. I'm going to go 8.125.
All right, guys, we made it. All right, so make sure you check out the Party on Broad podcast on iTunes and Spotify. Check us out at the Painted Lines YouTube channel. Hit that subscribe button, guys. Rob, tell us a little about the Madness podcast.
All right, so Madness podcast with me and Jessica Town. Happy birthday, Jess! Today is her 25th birthday. We are in a rebranding mode, but we do come to you. Thank you to the Painted Lines. We love being a part of this family. It's been a blast to be a part of it and get to know you guys on a different level here and take part in fun stuff like this. So you catch it anywhere, YouTube channel for the Painted Lines, anywhere else you get your podcast.
All right, Jason, you got a lot going on. So quickly, what's going on?
Yeah, the market is saturated with me. Move on.
Go ahead, Brian.
The market doesn't care about me. Move on.
Joey, finish us off.
Yeah, there is no market for me. Yeah, pass it on.
By the way, Joey, has anyone told you look like dead on ringer for David Blaine?
Wow.
I think the most random lookalike someone told me was KOC, and I'm like, you're on drugs, dude. I don't look like KOC.
You're a David Blaine guy. Go to LA, you'll do really well, or Vegas.
What the F?
Oh yeah, Vegas all the way. I will thrive in Vegas.
All right, let's wrap it up. Make sure you check out all of our guys here: Joey, the CEO, Jason, and Rob, and myself on Twitter. Thanks for watching, guys, and be on the lookout at 76ers TBL on Twitter for all of these brackets coming out starting tomorrow. I'm not even sure who's playing each other, but it'll be fun. For everyone here, thanks for watching, guys. Stay awesome.
Very good.
Sixers win it! Wow! Oh, man, Embiid just posterized Russell Westbrook. You